Peace and blessings,
Here
family.
we
We'd
go.
like to welcome today Stephen, the creator of the Formation app. Brother Stephen, how you doing today, brother?
Good, good. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Just great to have you on. We got some exciting topics to talk about today. Some important topics to talk about for Black
Absolutely.
people, Black men, especially. But before we even get to that, we just had a crazy election. How do you feel about everything that just happened with that?
Man, so not only was the leading up to the election was crazy, the whole theater, the whole circumstances after and before, all of that, man, is really um and just to speak from a general perspective,
Hmm.
it really puts or belabors the point of we need to get our stuff together
Most definitely.
because relying on man, and not to get into too much of it, man, because I think that we never really know the real behind everything. I think it's layered.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but if we needed any kind of wake up sign as a community to establish our own structures and create a form of create or engage in unity and create our own structure for us to survive and be independent. All of that, man, we can't rely on. And I say that a lot of times, especially in this country, stuff on paper, it sounds good on paper, and we know what that's about in real life. So
Yes.
they want you to believe a certain thing, and they want you to believe that stuff was put together to benefit all people.
Right.
But man, it's like you can't fight that fight, man. They put Biden's in office. Trump's still doing his thing. He got loyal support.
Right.
Uh, and it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I've had leading up to the election, I've had
Mhm.
conversations with different, people. Some people on the social media that have pro-black pages, and
Right.
people was adamant about being a part of the process and voting and all of that.
Right.
Um, and my stance on it personally was just that we need to do whatever we need to do to put ourselves in a better position. So if you're not going to vote, what are we doing?
Mhm.
Because just sitting out and not doing anything,
Mhm.
it's going to happen around us. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like, so we have to be active. But to answer your question in a more concise way, after going all around, the election was crazy. The after effects of it is crazy, and we just kind of sit back and seeing. And I hate with our politics, our political system. It's like you get the promises first,
Yeah.
and then we gotta wait to see if you produce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you basically telling me whatever you want to tell me, and
Yeah.
it's no guarantee, and it's no and
Exactly.
nothing else and nothing else works like that. Nothing else
No.
works like that. We do business with
That's
money.
right. That's right.
You have to. I pay you. You
Yeah.
produce.
You have to
You know
keep
what I
your
mean?
word. You have to keep your word.
Um,
Right.
you have to keep your word, and it's checks and balances in place. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what do we have? It's just it's crazy. And I have a whole thing with our community. But what do you think about it, man? What do you think?
Brother, I stand strong on the fact that we have to get reparations for our people. And,
Mm,
my thing is this: I will be the most fierce, the most adamant. You ain't never seen someone that will promote voting like I will promote voting if somebody would stand up for reparations. If somebody would just say, hey, if
mm,
we really want this country to be this great country that we claim it to be, that we want it to be, that we wished it to be,
mm-hmm.
we have to deal with reparations. No ifs, ands, or buts. This isn't gonna, I know you want to save them white whales, but we got to talk about reparations. I know you want to save the dolphins, but we got to talk about reparations. I know they want to save the green rhinoceros.
They'll put
We got to talk about reparations.
they'll
You know,
they'll find stuff and put it ahead of what's really going on with people, man. They just found a yellow penguin for the first time in history. They got it on
yeah,
camera.
yeah,
And that'll come before any issues.
exactly.
Mm.
And,
I
and
think though. I think with the go ahead, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, bro.
I say I think with the reparation talk,
Mhm.
and just the action, I agree with you, because that's basically back pay.
Right.
If and that's just the put the that's for lack of a better term, and it kind of doesn't, it's not inclusive of all that it is and all
Right.
of it should be. It should be money, it should be all these things and more to make it right.
That's right.
But I think the same energy that goes, the same energy, resources, strategy, and evil that went into keeping us in a bubble or keeping us separated from our knowledge of ourselves and our greatness and our history is the same energy, if not more, that is invested in making sure that white people don't look as savage or as terrorizing to us as they, possible. Like the same energy that keeps that washes the history books and makes us, what I'm saying, not see ourselves as we truly are, is the same energy they use on themselves to not be as, what I'm saying, to not let the truth come out of all the stuff that was done
That's
to
right.
us and our people for the sake of what? All of it leads back to money. All of it leads back to and it gets deep when you actually start doing the research and see that it was all about money. The South, the North wasn't fighting for freedom. They were all making money off the labor of slaves. The
Right.
South just didn't like their cut. That's all it
Right.
was.
Right.
And the North felt like they didn't have the soldiers, so we're gonna take the moral high ground in order to give us the advantage
Right.
in this basically in this contract dispute.
Right.
We just negotiating rates. That's all it was.
Right.
But for us, it was life and death for our people. So reparations, I think reparations without a plan will be detrimental to us because let's just say they find an amount or some kind of pay or some kind of I can't think of the word right now, but something to give as a token to say, how many times do you think they're going to do that? So we have to, the biggest fear always been that we're going to take it and we're going to turn it and use it against them or turn it and surpass them.
Right.
But I think now it's more so that if they do go about eventually, I think they're more comfortable giving it to us when they know we're not a threat about it. We're not going to be a threat, or we're not going to use it to surpass their position in the United States. You know what I mean?
So when we get reparations,
I agree with you, man.
We have to know how to spend money. See, it would be very detrimental to us to get reparations and give it back to white folks the next day. If you go out and get Gucci this and Louis that the next day, you're going to take the money and give it right back to them. So we have to change our spending habits. This has to be, as Huey P. Newton said, a change of conscience. There has to be a revolution in consciousness. You have to absolutely fall in love with supporting Black. That's why we own so many businesses. We don't understand. We own so many businesses in the 60s because we was forced to practice group economics. They wouldn't let us shop in their stores. So we was forced to spend money with each other, and we were thriving. Own more land than we ever did. Own more businesses than we ever. I'm talking Black hotels, Black taxi companies.
They had to stop that, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They had to stop. Yeah, they had to stop that.
They had to. They knew exactly what they were doing.
And I agree with you. Oh yeah, I agree with you. Nothing is by mistake, man. I feel like all of this stuff is a strategy to it. Right. You're right. It was a lot. And I'll say this, man, segregation and during that time where we were forced to work together, it was, and the first person I ever heard say this was a barber. And he was an older gentleman, man. I used to go get my hair cut since I was younger.
Right.
And he said during that time, that was the best time in a sense, because he said we learned more and we had to do more.
Yeah.
But I think like you're saying, like they had to take that cap off of it, because if they kept us with ourselves, we was going to surpass them. And we've done, and it was documented that we, after slavery,
Black Wall Street,
we had all these settlements pop up with Black Wall Street, and Black Wall Street wasn't just one; it started popping up everywhere, and they saw a pattern. But back then, the advantage that they had was that they could, and they could still do it now to an extent, but they could blatantly just wipe the board clean. You know what I mean?
Right.
They had adverse possession where they were scared of black folks out their land, out their house, and then take over it and made it legal.
Rosewood.
They had
Rosewood all day.
Yep. They had, yep, exactly. And it gets into the history where you have the law enforcement going and collecting guns, and then the mob would come right after them and either kill you or do all this stuff to get you out there. Even here in Atlanta, bro, we have Auburn Ave, right? It was supposed to be this historic Auburn Ave. Well, what happened was that they had all these black businesses throughout Atlanta, downtown, and these white folks weren't having it, so they were beefing. So the powers that be, the officers or the officials, was like, listen, we're just gonna give y'all this section so y'all can be safe. Away from the main where y'all was doing all the business, we're gonna put y'all on historic Auburn Ave, black businesses, so you guys will be safe and nobody can go down there and mess with you. We did it for you. No. Where do you think that prime real estate went? It didn't go to us. They put us over in the corner. You know what I'm saying? So that time, and I say this really quickly, that time was beneficial to us, and we need to recreate what works. That's what we need to do, is look at our history and do what works, and then just make tweaks to the things that's knocked us down. I once had the pleasure of, I never forget this. I once had a pleasure of going to the MLK Center here in Atlanta, and they were having a talk, and it was ran by his daughter Bernice, and it had they had a panel of civil rights legends up there, but it wasn't like legends that everybody could just name off the top of their head. It was people that was in the fight, somebody that less famous, some of them. And I remember because I was working corporate, and I left during the day just to go there and absorb the knowledge. Everybody had a story. It was three sisters up there. Two sisters, and the rest were brothers, and they was up there. They were older, and their story was how they got into the fight. They got into the fight early, 15, 16, 17.
Soldiers,
and because of segregation, soldiers, and the stories that they told were so cold. And I asked a question because I started seeing a pattern. And the younger kid, it was some college students in there. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really grasp it. How like them fighting and us fighting are two different fights. It's the same goal, but they had dogs sicked on them. They had water hoses. You know what I mean? It was a lot.
Physical.
It was a lot tougher back then. You know what I mean? You could see it on them.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was.
Oh man, and you didn't have social media. You didn't have outcry. You didn't have. Man, it was. The stories, bro, they was pouring out was legit. And I asked them. I said, and I raised my hand. I came to the mic and I said, "Okay, how do you think, or how can we unite like you guys did? Because you guys had the advantage of having segregation, so everybody was on the same.
You was forced.
Everybody was on the same. Right. You not white. You can't drink. Everybody was forced to. I said, now they removed that, and now we have the illusion of that black guy can make it. He's in a Gucci store. That black guy can make it. He's an athlete. So we don't have that same. Because I said that when the house is on fire, everybody running the same direction. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But us, everything's is so different now. Right. So how could we get that back? Because people are under the illusion that it's better, but you guys didn't even have that illusion. Y'all knew, like everybody, no matter, because those people, they weren't from the same area. They was from different areas in the South, and it was the same. But here now, it's different. You know what I mean? Like if we feel like we under it, struggling here, we can look on Instagram and it's some of us living it up somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So and they're not going to be like, oh, bro, y'all just got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And the sister tried to answer it, and she gave me basically what she told me was that she said I was right. She said that they are proud. The older ones are proud. They were scared for a second, but they are proud that the young ones are getting involved and are strong and fighting fiercely. She said that we have to focus on more of what is holding us back. And she was like, it's tons of things that we can get behind, but we have to make sure that like we can't play into the illusion that it's better now. We have to focus on what's holding us back and just stay under that flag.
Right.
But she agreed. She's like back then, like everybody was forced into the fight. Everybody, like you couldn't go here, blacks only, white only, everybody. Now it's like you can choose to fight or you can choose to live your life. make TikTok videos. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different thing.
That's
And
real.
then whenever racism confronts you, then you could be a weekend activist, and now you want to change it, and then you can go back when everything comes down. So
exactly,
that's crazy, man.
Well, that leads right into our discussion. What are we missing? So our question for this topic, the topic of discussion this evening, is how can Black men place themselves in better positions to lead the Black community? Brother, what do you think?
All right. So I think that this is a great question, because we have to think in terms of position and strategy. The formation platform that we work on, our formation page, is about, like the name says, and people obviously, sometimes they think we got it from Beyonce. So no, any fight that you do, anything that you do where it's you going after an objective, is done in a formation. Anything moving forward is done in a formation, even in nature. Packs hunt in formation. Everything, you go to war is formation. Everybody has to know their task. Everybody has to know their role in order to achieve that objective. So that's where the name comes from. Right. That's no different from us, in our community. Right. In order to move forward, man, first we have to acknowledge that, the traditional role of Black men, is to lead, is to protect, is to educate, is to be this vanguard for the community, the leadership for the community. And we have to acknowledge that it's not by chance that the black man is attacked so heavily. It's strategic. You remove or destabilize the male population, and everything else falls. Everything else becomes easily accessible. And this is done through various ways. So we have to acknowledge, because sometimes when you talk about Black men and the strife that they go through and the difficulties that they have, it becomes the pain Olympics, where they don't suffer more than Black women. They don't suffer more than Black children. They don't suffer more than this. And that's counterproductive. So we first have to acknowledge that Black men have to get right. And Black men have to acknowledge that amongst themselves. We have to take time to build ourselves up before we can do anything from anybody else. So I suggest, first thing I always suggest is find some like-minded brothers in your community or on social media or wherever, and start building with them. Start sharpen iron, man. Start pushing, start coming up in your own general location. You know what I mean? You don't have to do it nationally, but just start where you're at. And you notice, like, when a group of good brothers get together, man, it's powerful, man. It's different. It's different when we walk in the space. It's different when we walk in the room. Every time. And we can start. Oh, man. And it's noticed. They know crazy.
It. You remember they used to say we couldn't get in groups. They didn't want us to get in groups. You know what I mean? Because they know when we get together.
I was about to say that. Mm-hmm. Y'all a gang. Or y'all need to break that up. Nah. And they do it in several ways. The only time they want us to be together is when we're doing ignorant shit. When we're doing ignorant stuff, when we're doing stuff that is not conducive to us. Then they'll put us on front page. Then they'll put us everywhere for everybody to see. So the first thing I say for men is that we have to do an inventory of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that includes, like, what's my relationship like with Black women? What's my relationship like with my father? What's my relationship like? Like, who am I? What am I? Right. You know what I'm saying? What pieces don't I have? Then, as Black men, we have to be respectful. We have to grow in areas of loving our family, loving our Black women. Matter of fact, I'd say this: we have to step into our roles of what we're meant to be. We can't run from it. We can't push it off to the side. We have to step into their role, because there's Black men out here that's really operating like as good Black men, but it's so many brothers that haven't made it to that certain point that the responsibility starts to fall on the ones that do, and that becomes a hard battle. You know what I mean? Like, a lot more Black men need to wake up and see that that one, we are in the state that we're in. Like, we're really in a place where we have to get stronger and get better so we can really start protecting and start doing some things. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of break it down, man, I feel like we have to do a self-inventory as Black men. We have to get around good groups of Black men, older, younger. And that happens here in Atlanta, man. We Formation, we even started a men's group. Shout out to Mr. By Means is the partner in the group.
That's
We
awesome.
meet every
Tell me
Saturday,
about
man.
that.
We're opening it up. We've had 3 meetings so far. Yeah.
Mhm,
So the group is called it's called Twin, right?
mhm.
The formation is Twin Men's Group. So we came up with
Okay.
Twin. It's teaching whatever is necessary, right? So it's a group of Black men that we know each other through one or two people,
Mhm,
and we're adding to it every time we meet, and we do a virtual meeting. Um, and basically, what we do, man, we come up with a topic, we come up with a task, and we all go in on it. And these are Black men that are fathers, husbands. Some are single, some, you know what I mean, or just regular guys, man, and
right.
different fields, different things. And we're trying to marshal our energy and push. And
That's
the
awesome,
biggest
man.
criteria right now is, man, that you love Black women, you know what I'm saying, that you just
Right.
for Black people. No, you know what I'm saying, that we're not against anything else, but that's what we're pushing on, and that's what we are in a sense against it, to where we're not going to allow this group. But the
Right.
biggest priority has to be us and our women and our people. And guys are
Absolutely.
really open, man. I think we have to create more spaces for Black men to be able to be loved on, to be able to be coached, be able to be held accountable outside of everybody else. I
Right.
think what happens, and I see this a lot online, is that women want to inject themselves into the process of men becoming men, and that's not how it works.
Mm,
That's not how it works. And I think that, it's not fair. It's not fair to the guys. It's not fair because men don't check other men in public unless it's absolutely necessary. Like, we don't check, because then it's like, oh, you doing it for the women, you doing it for this. No,
right.
when it's real and it's genuine, we pull each other aside and we really go at each other. And
Right.
I know
Right.
that it needs to be seen and the healing needs to happen, and people need to see us in a positive light. But
Right.
that's after the work is being done. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
You don't, because we're not about tearing men down, but we will hold you accountable. Brothers hold each other accountable all the time. But
Right.
we're in this place now where all that has to see. We have to see you break that guy down in front of everybody when
Right.
he mistreats that woman. We have to see that. And that's, to me, that isn't as beneficial, because that's just going to breed more of the issue. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
But and I'm not going to say this is a unique thing, man. In Atlanta, they have something called Black Men's Labs. Before COVID really took over,
Hmm.
in the quarantine, I was going to those meetings. And when I say a room full of brothers, man, in different industries, different, we had college guys in there, man. It was just all love, man. When I tell you, it was the biggest show of unity amongst Black men.
Right. Right.
Everybody, the old and the young, we was listening to the OGs talk about different things.
Right.
The young ones was telling us what they were doing.
Right.
And it was really becoming powerful, and it was growing. It grew so fast.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it. We're pushing to do a version of it.
Yeah. I think that's amazing because, Black men are taught from a very young age, don't show your feelings, don't cry, don't, walk it off. It's almost looked on as being soft, to
Mm-hmm.
be a little personal, to be uh, to tell someone, what you're going through, what's really bothering you. We're taught to keep all that
Absolutely.
to ourselves. And usually that's when somebody explodes. Like, that's when somebody just goes crazy one day because they done kept all that in and they can't talk to nobody about it. So I commend you, brother. I think that's an amazing
Bro.
project you're working on. I mean, that's incredible. A lot of communities need that. They need
Thank you,
that. So
man.
you're
Yeah.
you're you're making it virtual though. So someone in a small town, they will be able to be a part of this. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. We have a guy in Ohio. We have guys here, man, and it's growing each time. I'm glad you said that, though. So you kind of hit on a couple of areas that really made me push it. So before we had it with the formation group, I already started a text chain. You know what I'm saying? The group chat got played out, but now we're using technology. But it worked. We had
Mhm,
like 15 guys on a group chat. It just wasn't practical.
mhm,
So now, like, with this pushing to kind of bring it virtually, man, the same thing. Every time we did something like this, it always had the same vibe to it.
right.
The thing that I want you to notice is that I paid attention, man, when suicide awareness came out, that Suicide Awareness Month, and they dropped facts. You can go to the website for mental health. Um, I think it's like Department of Mental Health and Behavior Health or something like that. And men commit suicide 76% compared to women. Black men commit suicide at a rate of 11.2 times versus women 2.6, right? Because if you think about, and I'm gonna just give you some background, man. Right now, I work with the community. I've always worked in. So part of my career has been like in IT and security and some things of that nature. And the other part has been with the people, community work, man. Working with emergency shelters, group homes, Department of Labor programs, working with our community, man. I do it now. And what I noticed, man, it's a lot of services for women and children, but it's not a lot of services for men. It's a lot of victim abuse stuff, but it's not a lot of services for men. It's not even a lot of tech programs for young boys. Right. You got Black Girls Code. You don't have anything for the boys. You know what I mean? Wow. And so I say that to say that Black men are, the expectation for us to have it all is here, or to be on track is here. But the help for us to get so is down here.
No resources to get there.
And that's that. No resources, but all the expectations in the world. And then when people talk about men and what's wrong with men, Black men, they put us in this large category with like white men and other men. And it's like, that's not even the case. And I keep it 100 with you, man. The funny thing, and it hit me right before COVID, bro, like a year and a half ago. So the job I was working put me into, so me and his brother was managing this location in a very nice area in Atlanta. Right. And our clientele was like CEOs, top tier clientele, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Brothers, it's guys with money, guys with power, guys with influence, right? Mm-hmm. And out of that, and I talk to anybody. I love to learn. I love to like network. Out of that, I had a conversation with a couple of dudes. That one is like he's a partner of this major ad agency, and it's like different things. And there was two guys, and they invited me and the other guy to this meeting. They had every Friday early in the morning at this museum. And when we went there, I went there. It was a group of men. Now, these men, it wasn't predominantly Black. It was white, mostly white guys. It was an Indian guy. It was the young brothers in there sprinkled in, but it was mostly just white, right? Right. And they talked about different topics. They talked about different topics. They talked about different things. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, to hear that, like, men have problems in general, right? Without adding racial stuff on top of it. Right. Men have problems in it. And these are guys talking about divorces. Yeah. These are men talking about, and it's like they talking about their problems in the midst of having these big companies, in the midst of, having these vast teams and access to this capital and all these different things. They're talking about problems. And so I went to that meeting first, and I would go and I would listen and I would put input in, and it was well received because I had a different perspective. So I was like, if I'm gonna go to the meeting in Buckhead, I have to go to the meeting in Bankhead. And what I noticed, the differences was crazy. The similarities were there. As men, we all have the same kind of issues, dealing with guilt, dealing with, relationships with our families, with our kids. But when you go to the Black meeting, it's that on top of all these different things. Men, we need that space for us to recalibrate and for us to kind of push and push forward and encourage each other. Because believe it or not, man, it's funny because when you talk about it in spaces where other people, everybody, men can't be the heroes and the villains in every story. Black men, and it's Black men that have done terrible things. It's Black women that have done terrible things. But the bulk of the villainization tends to be on Black men within and within and outside, in our community and outside our community. Right. And that has to, like, we have to. I think honestly, like, as a community, men and women have to create a bubble around ourselves and not listen to outside influences on how we should deal with each other. That's the biggest problem. Right. And the biggest thing, especially with Black men and Black women, is like, we love y'all and y'all love us. And we need to understand that it's always me and you versus the enemy or the problem, never each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's when we get that in our head, then we unstoppable. It's always me and you versus the problem, never each other. So whatever issue that we have, because if you think about it, man, we're Black women, Black men are dealing with like severe trauma all the time.
Right.
And it's not an excuse, but it's going to cause understanding. Working with the low income population, working with our population here in Atlanta, homeless population. When I was working with the company, I was working with the Department of Labor, and we was trying to get these youth under 24. When I say youth, into this program, and I don't want to say the name of the program,
right?
To help them, get their GED and help them get trade skills. But dealing with that population for 4 years, I saw patterns, I understood things. Our community needs understanding, we need forgiveness, and we need therapy. Those are the three things. Like, it's crazy. We need forgiveness. We need to forgive ourselves. We need to start forgiving others and within our community. We need understanding. We need to understand like the circumstances that generate somebody who doesn't have hope, somebody who doesn't treat women well, somebody who don't treat men well. And we need therapy to kind of break down these family issues that just perpetuate themselves and just tear up, the community. Like we talk about going back, the era that my parents was raised in, that era, we had a certain community collectiveness. Like you said, group economics, we had a certain way we went about things. We had a standard that we worked with. Right. Now it's just disintegrating more and more and more. It seems like it's things designed to weaken it, so that once you weaken that bond, then the pieces are easy to pick out. I think that's what happens too. I think it's like one of those things where it's like one of those things like a piñata. Once you can break it, you can pick out the pieces that you want. Wow. And I think that's why so much pressure and so much is aimed at our community, because right now you get whatever you want, but when you really start dissolving it, you can pick out the pieces. Oh, this is valuable out there, community. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like every other community, every other people, like especially here in America, they live off of what we do. Everything is set up, our music, because we generate so much money. Right. So if we were to stop all that and own it all, after, it's kind of like here in the South, and I'm sure other places too, the slaves were cooking all the food. So when the slaves stopped cooking the food, they didn't have any good food. It was trash. It's still kind of trash. Now what they're doing, it's a show on Netflix. I'm dead serious. It's a show on Netflix called Ugly Delicious. And it's an Asian guy that's going around and learning. One of the first episodes, he's talking about Southern food and its connection. And now what they're doing, all these little retros, these new chefs that are coming out, these groundbreaking chefs, all they're doing is stealing Black folks' recipes, putting some kind of twist on it, and then reproducing them and putting it out there. And now it's all innovative. We're used to the culture vultures. We're used to that. And they literally have an example. It's a place on Moreland here.
That's crazy.
Hot chicken, right? Hot chicken originated from Tennessee. Now the original spot of hot chicken was called Boats. Right. And it was a family thing. And everybody, Black, white, grew up eating it. And it was like the standard of hot chicken, the best that you could find all around. Right. Tell me why two white guys that grew up eating it, they opened their own hot chicken restaurant and it's killing. And the guy asked them straight up. He asked them straight up. He said, so how does that make you feel that your restaurant that was inspired by this restaurant is you basically about to put them out of business? And of course they did their innocent, well, we're just paying a tribute to them. But it's like they can't get a business loan because of their color of their skin, but you can. Right. You're going to take what you learned from them and destroy them. You know what I mean? That's a example, bro. That's an example of it's a lot of examples, but it's basically how a lot of stuff works now, right? I love that dance you're doing. I love that idea you have. That's great. That is a great idea. You know what? Let me help you with. Matter of fact, let me take it. Let me make it. You see, it's great. Look how much money it makes. I told you it was a good idea. Just be happy that you helped contribute to this. Because if you would have did it, it wouldn't have worked. You know what I'm saying? It's like this weird, like, I'm gonna rob you and you need to be happy with it. Or you know what I'm saying? We're so, and it's sections of us, it's groups of us that are so like trying to be approved and try to find value in giving our stuff away to say, hey, look, I'm valuable. Look,
Yeah.
I can do this dance. You can have it. Just
Yeah.
acknowledge me.
Right.
Look, I can do this. I can do that. Just acknowledge, just acknowledge me, and I'll keep giving you stuff. And they're like, okay, you're great. Keep giving it to me. Let me sell it. Matter of fact, let me sell it back to you. All right, keep giving it to me. Oh, you're doing it. It's stupid, but keep giving it to me, and I'll give it back to you. You know what I'm saying? It's like that whole thing. So
that's what they do. That's what they do.
And I'm going off thing, but
no, you right on.
That's one of that's one of those things that we as a community have to get back to. A certain thing, like I'm all for strong. We need, like, Black women are amazing. We need them. But we need each other too.
That's right.
We need each other too.
That's right.
And we have to start pouring more into men. We have to start pouring more into Black men. We have to start pouring more into Black boys. And a lot of people get offended when I say that within our community. But I notice certain things. So I run a page. Our page, now you have a giant following, man, and I love your content. Our page is not as big as yours, but one of the things I noticed is when I would do, and I do social experiments just to see, what a post is of our community.
Right.
And I would post something that celebrates Black women.
Right.
A Black woman appreciation post. Brothers come out the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do something that kind of, if I do 2 or more posts to talk about Black men, you always get women coming in, Black women coming in saying, just chipping off at it. And I noticed it. And I thought that was interesting. Like it's happened multiple times. And it's just like, okay, why is this? And it's because they're hurt. But if you're hurt, Black men are hurt too, but we can't express it the same way because we get villainized. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I think the biggest issue is that we have to hold ourselves accountable, but it's how we hold ourselves accountable, right?
Right.
And what happens, which is not, and it has to be productive. What happens, I see, is, and this goes back to what Black men can do, the overall question.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is that we try to cross check each other,
mm-hmm.
and it's not productive. Women are saying, and some of the pages on here, it's amazing sisters out there that hold other sisters accountable, and I love it. Men need to hold men accountable. Women need to hold women accountable. Excuse me. It can't be any cross, especially right now until we get there. Because if you say, "Oh, you doing this," I'm gonna say you doing that, and we're both right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, how does that help? Right. But you want to receive another man checking you, another Black man checking you, a lot different from your woman checking. I'm not to say that they shouldn't point out stuff. We should point out stuff, but I'm gonna say it's really difficult for people to take accountability when they feel like they being attacked and it's coming. And the thing is, as Black men, and I just shift over back to us as Black men, we have to stand strong on what it is to be our man, because everybody's trying to tell us how to be men. Everybody's trying to tell us what's good about being Black men, what's bad about blue, and nobody else is getting that type of scrutiny, right? Right. Ted, you're toxic if you do this. You're masculine if you do this. And Black men are starting to buy into it just to get the heat off. But Black men we have to be Black men. We have to hold each other accountable, but we also have to stand on what it is and not be afraid. Absolutely. Not be afraid to say, I want a Black woman. Right. And have Black kids. Not be afraid to say, I'm not wearing that dress, or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, just so I can be included. Because they never really want to include us anyway, right? Talk about it. Why would I, you know what I'm saying? Like me, I have nephews, I have people that look up to me. So the best thing that I can do is be a strong Black man, educate myself, make sure I'm skilled, make sure I can create income for myself and my family, and protect all those that are around me and that I love, right?